Hey guys, it's Jennie Wolek with the Wolek Group, Keller Williams Realty here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. What an honor to be with these rock star agents who have so much experience on this topic and all the other topics relating to real estate. We had taken the Shift book at the beginning of the year. I said, I want to have a book club every month, and let's do Shift because there's 12 tactics, so that'll work out perfectly. And then all this happens, and I think, well, let's just fast forward that. So we're already on tactic 9, and it's the month of June. And I don't know if you guys can even believe it, we're halfway through 2020. Oh,
Yay!
wow. Yay? Yeah, maybe.
We've survived this far.
We've made it. We've made it. Well, I'm going to let these ladies introduce themselves and just share a little bit about who they are, where they are, and what's going on in their world. And then we'll dive into tactic 9, which is create urgency, overcoming buyer reluctance. So Jen Davis, you kick us off.
Okay. Hey guys, Jennie, thank you for having me. Kimberlee, always good to see you. My name is Jen Davis. I am the CEO of Holt Homes Group in Springfield, Missouri, so I'm close to where Jennie is at. I took over as the CEO from our founder, Dan Holt, last year, about a year ago, actually last month. So ahead of that, I was our lead buyer specialist for 6.5 years. I run a team of 18 people. 6 of those people are in production. Our agents average selling roughly 85 homes per year. So we're very admin heavy. And I have the pleasure of getting to help lead the team. Ahead of that, when I was a buyer's agent, I built out a team within a team, added in showing partners and an EA and lead gen support on the buy side. And we've been closing over 225 buy-side units since 2015. So
not too shabby. And Jen, you are the name my coach always drops when he's teaching his lifestyle agent versus a growth agent. So you are a growth agent. You're an intrapreneur. So
well, I love your coach, Jordan. Right. Is one of my very favorite people.
He's pretty darn awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Kimberlee, let's hear about you.
Yeah, my name is Kimberlee Meserve. I am in Boston, Massachusetts. I run a small but mighty team here. There's just 2 agents. I handle all the buyers. I have a showing agent, and then Jason on my team handles all the listings. So between the 2 of us, we'll do about $50 million this year. And I was part of the 30 under 30 class this year. That was pretty cool. And yeah, I think a lot of people know my story because I moved to a new market in 2018 and rebuilt my business from scratch, not knowing anybody here. And I built it up through hosting first-time homebuyer workshops. So I host the biggest first-time buyer workshop in the Boston area. We do about 2 to 3 times a month, and we usually have about 25 to 35 people each time. And that's kind of my primary source of business.
This is so exciting because, of course, when I thought of anything relating to buyers, I first thought of you 2 ladies because you've really taken that side of the business that sometimes agents, they know, most real estate agents probably start with the buyers because that's how you get in. You start warming up, you work your way to the sell side, which is a totally different skill set and mindset too, I think. And, buyers, we have to have buyers in order to buy the listing. So I love that you've really honed your skills on this. So when it comes to this chapter in Shift, Gary really talks about timing the market and helping buyers, see how they can, or actually they can't time the market, and urgency. So let's just talk on those topics, and I'll just go back and forth so that we stay steady with this. So Jen, where do you feel like over your years of working specializing in buyers in the early days, did you become really good at explaining and sharing with buyers the truth about the market and creating urgency with them?
So I think it always starts with expectations. I mean, we're here to educate them. I'm not really, I don't look at myself really as a salesperson. I really look at myself as someone that wants to help someone get from where they're at to where they're wanting to go. in as easy of a way as possible. And so when I started, I mean, I got licensed in 2007, 2008, and it was more of a buyer's market. There was lots of inventory, and it took a while to figure out how to create that urgency and how you get to the point of being able to move buyers through the process a little bit faster. So I think where I developed this skill was understanding that the better questions I ask at the beginning and the more information I give them, the easier the process is going to be. And also understanding that the more homes I show a buyer, the less confidence they have in me as their trusted professional. So I think a lot of agents can go into it and think, well, I want to make friends with them and I'm going to show them all these houses and we're going to, share Thanksgiving dinner together or whatever it might be. And it's exactly the opposite. And so what I had to figure out was how do I create urgency without putting pressure on? Because I'm not a hard salesperson. I really do like the education part of it. And so I think for me, what it was is in the consult, really understanding what the why was, what their why is. And Gary talks about it in Shift Tactic 9. What is their why? What's the motivating factor? We can get criteria all day long and it's pretty straightforward. And the urgency creates itself if you know what their timeline is and you know what their why is. And that is the easiest way to tap into making sure you're matching your motivation with your buyers and getting them through the process in the time that they want to get through the process.
I love that. So Kimberlee, let's kind of keep going on that line there, because you have mastered buyer seminars and workshops. So how are you in that time with them capturing and sharing with them that same message?
Yeah, so I think it's a lot of what Jen said. Like, I'm not the salesy-salesperson. I will cold call. I don't enjoy it. Like, I can script play any of them, but that's not what I enjoy. I really enjoy building that foundation and that trust through providing them with the education up front. And it becomes such an easier relationship when you're coming at them with like value, and then you're asking for them to become your client. It's so easy because they already know, like, and trust you at that point. And so I love to just set all the expectations of even like what the market is doing as almost a filter in the beginning. So like at my workshops, we're talking about like, here's the market. This is what a buyer's market looks like worth of inventory. This is what a balanced market is. And this is what a seller's market is. Doesn't mean it's a better time to be a buyer in a buyer's market. And I think it's funny looking back because about 2 years ago, like we were kind of freaking out that we were at like 2 to like 3 months worth of inventory. Like everybody was like, the market is so tight. And today we're at like 2 to 3 weeks worth of inventory. So I just think it's funny the progression of like back then it was like, oh my gosh. And we've gotten so much deeper into that. So a lot of it is just like setting the expectation of like, this is what you have to do to compete in this market. And some people will naturally self-select out of that before they even get into the process of going to the consultation, because they might just be like, you know what, I'm not willing to pay over asking, or I'm not willing to jump through these hoops that are required.
Yeah, I love that. So let's kind of keep going along with this because, there are so many newer agents, and we've all been new agents. So we know that we are so guilty of this, that you're just so excited that a person says they want to buy a house and they've picked you to help them, that you run it right out the door, maybe not right this minute or because of, the coronavirus. However, in the old days, we'd run right out. We'd get so excited. We'd drop everything else. How can we give advice to newer agents that are still working through that excitement and keeping focused on making sure they're following a process to get them where they need to go?
I think it is exciting, and buyers are exciting every time, right? I mean, I got a referral from another agent and we did the consult and the buyer is already under contract 1 day later and we showed them 3 houses, right? I still get excited about it. Yeah. And at the same time, it's knowing what your value is and understanding that they're going to be more excited if you handle it really well on the front side. Because if we run and jump and show and we don't take that time to get to know them or to ask those questions or set the expectations, Kimberlee did a really good job of explaining that. What happens is we're going to disappoint them during the process, because if we don't tell them what Kimberlee just said, that they may have to go 5, 10, 15,000, whatever it is over asking price, and they're not prepared, when you get into the negotiating process and all of a sudden you had a ready, willing, and able buyer, and all of a sudden now you're telling them for the first time that that's what they have to offer, their first question is, well, who do you work for? Do you work for me, or do you work for the seller? And so if you can slow down and understand, I'm setting myself up for success later. They're going to trust what I say. We're going to be able to get them, successfully under contract on a property. And they, in Shift Tactic 9, they talk about, you have to check their willingness all along the way. And even in a seller's market, you have to do that. You don't want the buyer that pulls back, that says, oh, wait a second, I didn't expect that. Because we're still trying to find the motivated. That's who we want to work with, whether it's a buyer's market or a seller's market. And so my advice to the new agent would be, it's okay to be excited. And it's okay that they know you're excited to get to work with them, because they like it. They want someone that wants to work with them. They're also going to be willing to have an hour conversation with you to make sure that you guys are on the same page.
Yeah, I want to just add to that. I thought it was so interesting when I was revisiting a lot of this content to brush myself up before this. And so much of it is like talking about a buyer's market, but so much of it is applicable, like the deeper we get into a seller's market. And one thing Gary talks about is becoming that economist of choice. So a lot of that goes back to just setting the expectations at the consultation. It's also presenting yourself as a professional, because if we're just going out and running out the door every time they want to see a property, then they start to just look at us as like somebody that's just there to open the door. And so when we're setting that expectation, we're educating them on the market and becoming that economist of choice. It makes it so much easier, because it's not just them perceiving it as our opinion of what we should tell, what they should offer. It's the market data and the facts.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love it. So setting expectations, showing up as a professional is just really the best way to capture great relationships. Because like you guys both said, you're doing this because you love helping them through the process, and we have to value our time. All right. So speaking of efficiencies, during the past few months, we've gotten to shift and pivot on how we meet with buyers. So what are the top things that you have done in your business? I'm sure that they're similar between you, because you're both super smart and have already pivoted this. What's the most successful thing that you're doing right now to connect with people virtually, and how are you walking them through the process? Kimberlee, you can go first.
Yeah, so I'm still doing the same practices, just in a different method. And I love it. I have a lot more time in my day now. So instead of like having to drive 30 minutes to my office to meet a buyer in person, we're just jumping on Zoom, and it adds a lot more flexibility in my schedule. The other piece is we immediately just had to pivot and host our buyer seminars on Zoom. And as a result, I'm saving about $500 an event, because we don't have to pay our brewery space. So it's actually become really wonderful. And it's cool looking at the results. Like, I was so nervous that first week or two, and I was talking to my coach. I'm like, should I adjust my goals for the year? I don't know if I'm going to have the same conversion, the same results. The cool thing is my conversion is actually up from doing it on Zoom. I can't pinpoint that to a specific thing, but the results are showing up. So pretty much everything that I was doing before, I'm just doing on Zoom.
I love it. So you're saving money and you're more efficient. Hello. That sounds awesome.
It sounds awesome. And the thing I would add to that, I think part of that, Kimberlee, is probably your speed to lead. So people typically talk about the speed to lead from the time a lead comes in and you capture it and you respond on the phone. Well, now we've got this interesting thing where we can do a speed to lead of lead comes in, we capture the lead, and we can have an on-demand appointment, right? So the speed to lead of actually from the lead coming in to you getting face-to-face time is unbelievable. I think that's why our conversion rate is up, because when we look at it, there's no lag time, and people are in the comfort of their own home. They feel like they have some confidence. Their husband or other wife or other decision maker can also be there. And I think it's the speed in which we're actually getting in front of them, and we're able to capture that lead that much faster. The other part of it is like a buyer agreement, buyer broker agreement or agency agreement, whatever you want to call it. If you're sharing your screen and you're doing it on Zoom, and I've seen Kimberlee's buyer consultation, she does a really great job of walking you through this very professional consultation and presentation. And then that buyer agency agreement, it's a forward pacing to getting it signed. So she's sharing her screen, she's explaining it as she goes. And at the end of it, it's a very natural thing for the buyer to click and sign. So it's great.
It just has a natural progression. So logically, it seems like the next step is for you to go ahead and click here and sign. I love that. Jen, you really mentioned something that I hadn't put it in these words or these terms, but it makes so much sense that now the speed to the lead, before it was just speed to the lead to call them and connect. Now it's speed to the appointment. Let's get to the appointment face to face, and the face to face is key.
It's key, and it's faster. I mean, a Zoom call takes much less time than them coming in the office. You're getting them a cup of coffee, you're chit-chatting, they're meeting part of your team, they're doing these things, and it is the efficiency piece of that is all the way through. It's from the time the lead comes in till the appointment happens, to the signatures on the line, to then, okay, here's how we're going to show houses. We're still going to show houses. Here's how. And that could be any market, whether your state is reopened or not reopened. Now we have other solutions to those showings that are also more efficient.
All right, let me ask you this. So we all are in a seller's market. We've talked about that. Kimberlee's is a lot smaller than the middle of America, like Jen and I here. And still, houses are moving fast and buyers are getting frustrated. We're also noticing buyer agents are getting very frustrated. So what are your best tips when working with buyers to ensure that you are helping your buyer win the deal?
Jen, do you want to go, or do you want me to?
You can go first.
Okay. So I was looking at this and I wrote some notes from where Gary talks about you must focus on the motivated. I kind of see the motivation coming in two parts and people really revealing their motivation. So one is the first filter on that, I guess, is their speed. So speed to showing. So properties here, like we went from having a very planned market where it would go on early in the week, there would be no showings until the open house, and then offers due the next week. So that was a lot more manageable because you could kind of see what was coming on the market, what we wanted to go to open houses for. And now it's just chaos. Like sellers are putting their house on the market and they're like, we'll just take whatever the first great offer is because we want to eliminate as many people coming in the house as possible. So like there's a lot of properties that are going on the market and getting 9 offers in 12 hours and going under agreement the same day. So some of that motivation shows up in like the buyer's willingness to be quick to go see properties, because I've had a few buyers that were motivated buyers back in the fall. And like, I can think of one buyer exactly. He was under agreement. We had a disaster of an inspection, and then we've just had tight inventory. Nothing's really come up for him. And then he's inquired about a couple properties, and it's like, by the time he even asks about it, they're already accepting offers. Like they've already have offers. And so part of it is just what's their urgency in going to see the properties? And then after that, what's their motivation to compete against other people? And a lot of that does go back to that local economist of choice. Like I feel like I've been having a lot of conversations where buyers are like, well, you know, I was told like you always want to pay like the least that you can. And my advice to clients is always figure out what the most you're comfortable paying is and offer that, because it's not going to usually be a highest and best situation. Like more often than not, the listing agent will just accept whatever the best offer is they get. And so I always tell people, like, figure out what the most you're comfortable paying is and go in with your best foot forward. So that becomes like the second filter on their motivation. And a lot of times what you really need to do is just lay out the numbers. Like this is a conversation I had last week. They were like, well, why would we pay $5,000 more? What if someone pays a little less? And I was like, listen, how long do you think you're going to live in the house? They're 5 years, maybe 7 years. They're like, yeah, probably 5. I was like, okay, so let's look at the numbers. If you pay $5,000 more, it's this much more a month on your mortgage payment. And then you actually times that by 5, it wasn't actually $5,000. They were really only paying $1,200 more over the life of them living in the property. And when you kind of change their mindset from like the big picture number to what it actually means on a smaller scale in their day-to-day, it becomes a lot easier for them to make that decision. The other piece of it too is like, we are like this, it kind of goes back and forth between like the second and third most expensive market to rent in. So a lot of times it's comparing like, what would you be paying in rent versus what would you be paying in a mortgage payment? And even if it's a little bit more for your mortgage, if you're living in an apartment for 2 years, you're spending $48,000 over that period of time on rent. Your landlord is not writing you a check back when you leave. But if you buy, we're in a constantly appreciating market. Even in the last downturn, we had about 4% appreciation. So I try to get my clients into this mindset of like, you're putting money towards your mortgage payment every month, and you're going to see that equity over time.
I want to point something out real quick. Kimberlee, I'm just noticing and appreciating you're so in tune and knowledgeable of your market and the numbers that you take really big, scary things and you chunk it down so that they can feel good about moving forward. So that anyone watching, really listen and rewatch how she just said all that. She knew all the different things to overcome any of those objections. And I'm sure face-to-face or over Zoom together, she's making them feel comfortable about moving forward. So Jen, what do you got?
Well, I think she nailed it. I mean, I think that was a great answer. It is making sure that when you're finding them motivated and you're dialing into what their why is, that's what you bring it back around to. And when Kimberlee was talking and she's giving the numbers of, okay, this is what it would be over the life of the loan, or this is maybe the difference in your monthly payment. How important is this to you? And on the flip side of it, I think we have to understand that some people are not motivated right now, and that's okay. Because what we're here to do is we're here to service people long term. And so if they're not ready, willing, and able to go right now, that's also okay. And we can put them on a follow-up plan, and we can encourage them in different ways to make sure that they make good decisions while they wait. So, you know, during COVID-19, we've talked a lot about the different objections. Is it health? Is it financial reasons? What might those, you know, what are those different things? And understanding that those are two very different reasons for why someone wouldn't be ready to purchase right now. And either one is okay. We just need to understand, based on those motivation questions and understanding what their backstory is, which of those it is, and how do we best service them? Because if it's a financial ramification of potentially they lost their down payment money in the stock market, or potentially that down payment money now is going to provide their groceries and their utilities and their current rent, and we need to make sure that we understand what those are so that we can help them, so that we also later are not repairing credit, that we're getting them through this time, because it's the long game, right? We're not servicing people just right now, and we want to have a really robust pipeline for when people come back around. So Kimberlee's right. The people that you've got that need to do something right now, understand your market, be able to communicate it with them or to them, and help them feel good about the decision. And those that need to wait, also appreciate the difference in the two, so that you can put them on a follow-up plan, and you'll be their economist of choice, you know, 6 months from now or 18 months from now, whatever it might be.
Well, that's what's been the beauty of the care calls that we've been making, right? If you are really loyal to following a quarterly touch in some fashion to your database, when you do have that call, you're coming from a place of caring, not a place from making them buy a house right now when they don't want to buy a house. So they already know and like and trust you because you've already stayed in touch with them during all the times, not just this time when you need to get someone in a contract.
Yeah, and those care calls, I think people look at that they're making them just to the database. Well, we're making those to our pipeline, because the people that, you know, Kimberlee's example of the gentleman that fell through maybe due to a rough inspection. Well, he's got a different motivating factor now. He's not the same buyer as he was the first time that she met him, right? He now has different objections and different concerns because he's been through it one time and it didn't end well, or I mean, it ended fine there, but there's a new objection to handle. Those people that we didn't get to transact, that were on our 90-day out pipeline reports, let's check their motivation, because it doesn't just mean that those 90-day people went to 6-month people. Those 90-day people, maybe something happened and now they're a 30-day person. So it's re-asking those questions around motivation, so you really understand where we need to put them and how we need to help them, because it can move either way. Motivation can get further away, or it can move up.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Just having a handle on like what your pipeline as a whole looks like, because I think when I would say the first month into this, I noticed a huge reshifting on my pipeline, and it's not just backwards, it's forwards. Like I had some people that were living in small apartments and they're like, you know what, we can't do this anymore. Like we need to get out of here. and they were like year out buyers that became now buyers. So it's just constantly staying in touch with people, like meeting them where they're at. And I personally, I know people probably seen me talk about it before, but I really love opportunities in command because it gives you a good visual representation of your pipeline. And even when we're having those conversations, if someone's not a now buyer, I intend on being in business for a while. So I need to be filling my pipeline for the long run too, so that I know going into next year, what does my business look like? So it's nice to have that visual layout of like, where are people at in the spaces?
Well, you guys have just nailed this topic. You're such a resource of value. And I know Jen is going to get off here in a minute to go do another value add for people. Tell everybody where you're going. You're with Friendly, doing a buy or something.
We're doing all buyers. So it's Sarah Detmore and I, who I co-coach a MAPS program with. She and I, so she's with the Wolek Group and my director of sales and one of her buyers agents. And we're going to talk all things buyers. So we're going to do some scripting. We're going to talk about those pipeline reports, how we build them, how we track them, all that good stuff. Okay.
So if anybody's watching, you want to hop on over there. What group is that in, Jen?
Friendly has a handful of groups. I think
Friendly, if you're watching, go ahead and post it. Well, yeah, I want to hear as we wrap up, what didn't I ask you that you're talking about all the time? Because clearly you're the experts in this field. So I'm sure you're doing so many Zooms and sharing on this topic. What didn't I ask you that you feel is really important for everybody to hear? Kim, why don't you go first?
I kind of already talked about it already, but I think it's for those of us that are in the place to be able, I know this isn't applicable to some bigger teams, but people that are able to start getting their business into command, absolutely plug into that. I just got a bunch of Facebook leads set up on a smart plan. And while we were sitting here waiting to start, some lady texted me back that she was a cash buyer for a different market, but it's a referral for me. So just get your people into command and get them set up on as many different plans and touches that you can.
I love that. That's super smart. That's a great tip. Jen, how about you guys?
Don't adjust your goals. Don't adjust the goals because of what the market is doing. You control what your market is doing and you control the energy that you're putting out there. And so keep going. It may take more effort. It may take more effort, and then think how easy it will be later when it takes less effort. So, don't adjust those goals. Go for it. We're having bigger months. Kimberlee, Jennie, us, we're having all bigger months than we've had, and things are still moving. We just have to sift through those motivated as quickly as we can. And the ones that aren't motivated, Kimberlee's right, get them into command, get them into your database, get them into the CRM that you use, and make sure that there's a follow-up plan so that when they're ready to transact, that you're their person.
Fortune is in the follow-up. I've been in this for so long, and every day I'm just tickled when we get that client who hasn't responded in 6, 7, 8 years to me, and now they're ready. So I'm just telling you, it does work. It just sometimes takes time. But in the meantime, find the motivated and get them some urgency if they truly do need to buy a home. So I appreciate you guys so much for your time. You are amazing. Why don't we real quick share how people can reach out to you if they want to learn more or send you a referral. Kimberlee, you go.
Yeah, I prefer people text me. So my number is 978-587-6489. I get so many Facebook messages a day. So text is the best way to get in touch with me.
I'm gonna go with email is the best way to get a hold of me, because someone else is also in there that can help out with things if I'm tied up. So my email is Jen, Jen Davis, DAVISKW@gmail.com.
Well, there you go. Thank you guys, ladies. Thank you, ladies, is what I meant to say. Have the most amazing day ever. And thanks so much for all you do to share and empower agents. I appreciate you.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for having us.